Hello, my name is Talamelli Cusick, the Executive Vice President of ImpactWayv. Welcome to the latest in our ImpactWayv podcast series. November 19th is World Toilet Day, a day set aside to celebrate toilets and raise awareness of the 3.6 billion people living without access to safely managed sanitation. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome today's guest, Ryan Rowe. Ryan Rowe is the Executive Director of HANWASH. HANWASH and partners are working with and supporting local stakeholders to deliver safe, affordable, and sustainable water and sanitation to everyone in Haiti. Ryan is a Rotary International Peace Fellow with a wealth of professional experiences in business and nonprofit sectors, including, but not limited to, advising the governments of Haiti and Malawi on policies of safe drinking water and directing a nonprofit in the United Arab Emirates. Ryan, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have you join me to discuss this very critical topic. But if you don't mind, if we could start with you telling us a bit more about HANWASH.
Sure. Well, thanks, Karen. Thanks to the team at ImpactWayv for having us here. It's really a pleasure. Sure. So HANWASH is an initiative that was founded by Rotarians in Haiti and other Caribbean countries, basically to address the large and critical water and sanitation challenge in Haiti. For those who don't know who Rotary is or what Rotary is, it's a global network of community-based clubs. They've worked a lot on polio eradication over the years, and chances are the people watching this have a Rotary club in the town or city where they live. There are thousands of them all over the world. So first and foremost, HANWASH aspires to be citizen-led. We don't want to be just another foreign group imposing challenges or solutions on Haiti. And so in that sense, I look at HANWASH kind of as a project manager, where we deliver water and sanitation solutions that the government and the people of Haiti are telling us that they want or need. And we use our resources and our connections to help bring those solutions, to deliver infrastructure and provide training. Our goal is to increase water and sanitation for the entire country, basically to achieve universal access or 100% access for the entire population. Water and sanitation, these are essential services for a good quality of life, for people to go to work, for kids to go to school, and for people not to get sick.
Well, that's fantastic. It's been, quite a learning experience for me to and our team to learn about your work and what you do. Like it talks about people's dignity and respect, their access to education. So it's been amazing how connected all this is, far beyond just having fresh drinking water and sanitation. So could you tell us a little bit about what World Toilet Day is all about?
Sure. So World Toilet Day is, I guess by the time this podcast is published, it will be World Toilet Day. So that's November 19th, just about a week away. Jack Sim was the founder of World Toilet Day, and he basically brought it to the world's attention through advocacy and lobbying. But basically, he made it funny. He made it real. He started off in Singapore, and he realized that these issues, the lack of access to a simple toilet, was common, in most countries around the world. So he basically shouted loud enough for the world to hear, and eventually World Toilet Day was recognized by the United Nations in 2001. So every year on November 19th, we can all celebrate access to a toilet. And for those who don't, we have to make our voices loud enough to help them.
It's funny that you said he brought it up and made it funny. And I've got to say, I last year when my colleague mentioned it, my first response was rather silly. Never heard of it. But in preparation for our conversation, I was astounded by the numbers, by the people affected, and by my own ignorance of this issue that is so incredibly vital and affects, again, 3.6 billion people. It's a critical global issue. Can you explain what is the global sanitation challenge?
So first of all, one challenge is just being able to provide access to a toilet for generally the poorest of the poor around the world, are the ones who tend to lack access in cities and in the countryside alike. As you mentioned, 3.6 billion people don't have a safely managed sanitation service, which basically means a toilet that's well constructed, that's accessible to folks when they need it, that's well kept, that's clean, it's hygienic. And the figures you'll see on the screen in front of you, show us that, okay, we're making progress. Over the last, couple of years, 115 million people or more have gained access to safe sanitation services. But at that rate, in 6 or 7 years' time, in 2030, there'll still be nearly 3 billion people without access to sanitation. So, we really need to draw people's attention to this issue. We need to mobilize resources, and we need to find really creative technological and human solutions to this challenge for pretty much every country around the world. This is actually an issue even in cities like San Francisco and in Montreal, where you have large homeless populations who don't have access to a toilet. You see sometimes they can't go into just, your corner cafe or a restaurant and use the toilet in there because it's for customers only. And, I get that, but this basically means that some of the most vulnerable people in our societies, in poor and rich countries alike, can't find a toilet to do their business.
And it's like you said, you kind of get it. It's for customers, for employees, but it means so much. I mean, it's giving people more than a toilet. It's giving them respect and dignity to those who don't have it, and then all the illnesses besides. In talking about this, I know my team has probably heard me at nauseam lately because I've been so getting into this, but the figures are astounding and somewhat heartbreaking to learn that 800 children die daily because of diarrhea. It seems like this is a massive public health crisis.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is a public health crisis. The lack of access to safe sanitation, the lack of access to drinking water that's safe to drink, and the ability to wash your hands after going to the toilet actually causes disease. And you'll see from this chart that there are still, based on the numbers released, about 7 or 8 years ago, these studies happen every few years. And they look at various causes of disease and mortality in countries around the world. And diarrheal disease, the large majority of which is caused by lack of access to safe water and sanitation, is about 824,000 deaths around the world are attributed every year to the lack of access to drinking water and a toilet. And we could literally save hundreds of thousands of kids every single year just by investing in this critical and essential service. We also, if you look at what that means, from a healthcare standpoint or an education standpoint or an economic standpoint, the fact that people can't go to school or they have to go seek services at a hospital or they're not able to make it to work or they miss days of work, has an enormous impact on, girls' access to education. For example, they lack sanitation facilities during their menstrual period, their menstrual cycle, or, folks are not able to get to work, and that has an impact. Just to put this in stark terms, we're lucky here in Canada and the US. I can call sick to work and take the day off. I still get paid for that sick day. That's not like that when you are working in the informal economy or on the black market, and you're an entrepreneur on the street. You don't have a choice. You got to work.
Absolutely. And, there is such an economic part to this equation too. I mean, from what I read, there is a return of close to $5 for every dollar invested in water and sanitation. When you're talking about healthcare cost, increasing productivity, creating jobs, you would think this would be an incredibly strong motivation to meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, correct. It's hard for the average person to relate to that because I think, first of all, here in Canada, for example, for the most part, it's our taxes that pay for the water supply. At least that's the case here in Quebec. It's the taxes that pay for the water that clears my toilet when I flush it, right? And so I don't even see a water bill every month. It's coming in the form of municipal taxes. But the fact that I can avail of those services prevents me from, or mitigates the risk of that I might get sick, right? And folks in some of these countries don't have that luxury. I think if we look at the numbers, there's a strong case for public investment in these services. But many of the countries where water and sanitation is lacking, they don't have the resources. For one, they don't have maybe the systems to collect taxes, or, for example, folks can't afford to pay for these services, and so it's difficult to create that system. And that's basically what we're working on Haiti, is trying to create that system to provide services to these folks.
And just mentioning Haiti, what are the sanitation challenges in Haiti? Because they seem pretty extensive.
Yeah. So the issues in Haiti are quite profound. You have millions of people in large cities, small towns, and in the countryside who lack access to sanitation facilities. Haitian cities, like a lot of rapidly growing urban areas all over the world, don't really have an effective sewer system that can actually collect human waste from the household, flush it into a pipe, and then transport it to a treatment center. It's more of a patchwork of solutions that doesn't necessarily work very efficiently. Folks can construct their own latrines, like a toilet in the backyard, and that's like a simple outhouse that you might find when you're on a hiking trip, right? In the backwoods. They can construct that, but they need the property to be able to do that. They need the technical skills to be able to do that. They have to be able to afford to hire someone to do that, or they're building it themselves. These things are also susceptible to flooding, right? Flush toilets, forget about an outhouse, but a flush toilet is even more complex, right? You need a steady supply of running water. You need a septic tank. If you don't have a system to collect that waste, you got to put it somewhere. So, you need a septic tank. Now, the wealthy in countries like this, they can afford that. Or if you're a homeowner and you own a piece of property up in the woods in Canada or the US, you'll put in a septic tank under your yard, and then you'll have a flush toilet. But that's not really available for the poorest of the poor in Haiti. So we work on some of these issues with our partners to provide training and sensitize folks in rural areas to the importance of being able to, first of all, to be sensitized to how important sanitation is to protecting the cleanliness of their environment, and we give them, we provide trainings to sensitize them to that. And that's one way in which we create the demand for sanitation. And when folks realize how important it is, you will see that they'll start to prioritize it. And so that's one of the fundamental things that we're working on in Haiti.
One of the things I've always been kind of inspired by, you don't just go there and make a quick hit and leave. You teach people how to help themselves. Like the old adage, you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day, teach them how to fish, and you'll feed them for the lifetime. And your HANWASH, through HANWASH and your partners, are teaching people how to build these pump stations and maintain them afterwards to keep this going. It's been pretty inspiring to follow some of the work you're doing, because it's meaningful, and again, I think speaks to bringing dignity to people.
Yeah, it's the concept of I guess even more broadly than water and sanitation, it's the idea of self-determination, and that folks realize that there are things that they can do to improve their livelihoods or to improve their situation or their future, their prosperity. And so I guess, the way that we approach this is just really by engaging folks in a conversation and say, what's your vision? What are your dreams? How would you like your life to look? And then when we hear them talk about, I'd like my kids to go through school, I'd like to have a better job, I don't want my kids to be sick all the time, then we zero in on some of those things, and then we connect them back to the issues in the community. In this particular case, if they're talking about their kids being sick, we'll connect that back to the lack of access to drinking water and clean drinking water, and to the lack of access to a clean toilet. that it's safe to use. And so through a process of conversations, this takes months. And with our partners, we'll work with them to sort of sensitize folks to what they could do to change that situation for themselves. And we're just there to provide tools and resources to support them in realizing that vision of a better future.
And that's great. You're talking with the people who are going to make a difference here, not just, waiting for governments to come and do. And, how much that was due to parents who might feel rather hopeless, to bring hope into their family. And then from what I've heard from, a friend of mine was telling me about a dear friend of his who ended up being very successful. And so much of that started when he had access to a toilet, because he got his dignity, and it just plays so much if you strip people of that. And just applaud the efforts HANWASH is doing in Haiti to bring hope back to people. I was surprised that Haiti experienced poor Haiti, a devastating cholera epidemic in 2010. Can you tell us how that started and where and how it spread?
Yeah. So for those who are listening, a little bit about the story. It's a bit of a debacle. So Haiti had not had an incident of cholera in the country for generations. And then after the earthquake in 2010, which was devastating, it killed hundreds of thousands of people, devastated basic services and infrastructure. And of course, that compromises everything, right? Being able to go to a toilet, being able to get food and healthcare services and drinking water and school and everything was just thrown into disarray. So in the context of that situation, routine was totally disrupted. There was a contingent of peacekeepers from the United Nations that came into Haiti. They were stationed along the banks of a river. It seems that the sanitation system that was constructed for those peacekeepers was leaky, and some of those peacekeepers were carrying actually the cholera virus. So it leaked into the river, and then that contaminated the water supply, because downstream there were all kinds of villages that were living along the riverside. And so, people got infected, and then of course, cholera spreads easily through the water supply, and so it propagated. It ended up causing about the deaths of 10,000 people, and it sickened hundreds and hundreds of thousands more. The government of Haiti was able to contain the virus. They were able to eliminate it and eradicate it again in 2022, just earlier this year, really, after a 3-year hiatus with no cases. And then just recently, with some of the instability in the country, and water supply was compromised again for different reasons related to a fuel shortage. Cholera reemerged. So that was very problematic. And so the cholera is now again at the forefront of the government's agenda to address this issue and protect people's lives.
Oh, my word. And would you say that the sanitation problem is the same in rural as in urban Haiti, or is there a difference in parts of the country?
Yeah, it's quite different. So, as I was talking about before, right? So in urban settings, you might have access to a toilet, a flush toilet, because you're living in a city and there might be a network in your particular neighborhood. But in rural areas, you're more likely to have a yard to build a latrine. But many rural dwellers in Haiti, lacking the economic resources to be able to construct these things or the education to know that it's important, they might just go use the fields behind their house or go into the forest and just do their business there. And so, you don't necessarily have that option in a city, but people still got to go, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is, there might be like empty lots, or there might be, for example, like a stream that runs down, that might run down the mountainside. And so you might find a place to go, and then you can wash up afterwards in the stream. Folks do what they got to do. I mean, seriously, if you've got to go to the bathroom, I mean, that's literally a personal emergency sometimes. If you don't have to go, you make do. I can tell you, I've been on a few hiking trips myself. I had to find a place to go, and I had nowhere to find, so I had to go off the trail. And I'm sharing that because I want to make this situation real for folks. This is literally a daily our daily routine for every human being on this planet, and some folks just don't have the facilities.
No, but you do add meaning to that because, like you said, you go to these streams and then you just used almost in the same sentence, that's where you go to wash your hands. So it's
Right.
it's like polluted water. It's
Yeah.
just talking about, ancient civilizations, they thought they were so far ahead because they had these great pools. So in ancient Rome, you could go in these pools, but those
Yeah.
pools were the same dirty water everybody was doing. And, disease spread. It's
Hmm.
very real situation. I appreciate how you're just making it, approachable. Um, how does hand wash contribute to alleviating the sanitation problem in Haiti?
Yeah. Well, so HANWASH is basically kind of like we consider ourselves like an umbrella organization.
Mhm.
So we work with the local Rotary clubs. We create the demand for, you know, safe drinking water and sanitation. We create the willingness to pay modest fees to keep those systems sustainable. And when we see that the demand is there, we bring resources, financial resources, and we go out and we find technical partners. Sometimes those are other nonprofits who've been working in Haiti for years, or we go and we find, a private company that has expertise in that service. And then we'll basically set up an arrangement with them to deliver the infrastructure or do the repairs that are necessary to give folks the services they need. Um, so we've worked with a number of partners. One of our main partners is Haiti Outreach. They've been in Haiti for 20, 25 years, and are based in the central part of the country. And they've come up with a really effective model of engaging communities. I described it a little bit before. It's a little bit this concept of self-determination, right? They engage with folks, they meet them where they are in their villages, talk to them about their dreams, and make water and sanitation more relatable. And after a period of months, the community, individual members of the community express that they're willing to take responsibility for this situation, and that's the key. When that starts to happen, that's when we see that there's this idea of a culture change, that the demand has been created, and then we'll basically set up the contracts to basically deliver these water and sanitation infrastructures. It might be like a rural well, or it might be the repair of a piped drinking water system in a city that brings water into people's yards, for example, through like a tap where they can collect water. Um, so that's a bit like how we work with partners, and they have relationships all over the country with local citizens and local leaders, as well as with the government. And we're able to carry out this work and ensure that those investments endure for the long term.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
quite incredible, of the Rotary to take this. I know that they came in and really helped out in a big way during the most recent earthquake, and with this project they're supporting. It's so inspiring. I mean, you're literally giving children better access to education, health, respect, all the respect that comes to having access to a toilet. For some, it's so totally life changing. And I love the education, campaign, because it is life changing. Hopefully, relieving some of the pain that these families are dealing with due to all of these so preventable deaths. That's what it won't take. Well, it obviously is a huge undertaking, but sitting here, it just seems like preventing 800 deaths a day from diarrhea is something to aspire to. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's no. I mean, it certainly inspires us to keep working at it. It's a laudable goal to work towards. It takes a lot of work. These solutions, they're not just cookie cutter, right? So what works in Bangladesh is not going to work in Haiti. So and you can't we can't bring that solution from Bangladesh and just drop it into Haiti and be like, here you go. It doesn't work like that. So what we, as I was talking about, right, we go into these communities, we sit down with them and we say, well, what kind of problems do you want to solve? And then when they tell us, then we'll give them a menu of options and we'll say, well, look, here's this option. It worked in Bangladesh. It might work here. And it's going to cost this much. And I want to emphasize for the folks at home, when we talk about cost, HANWASH is funding the capital costs, kind of like the government might fund the construction of something in Canada or the US. And then the operating costs are actually borne by the citizens. So they're paying these modest fees, right? It's like $1 per month per household. So, in a community with 50 households, that's like $50 a month. And that'll keep a rural water point working. And they're building these toilets themselves, and we're just providing them with the tools to do so. So we're really clear up front, like, look, we can support you with this. This is how much it will end up costing you once it's all built, and you need to run it, you need to operate it, maintain it yourselves. This is how much you're going to have to contribute to make that happen. And so, it takes several months, and they might go back, they might hold like a village meeting. We won't even be there, and then we'll come back maybe 3 weeks later, and we'll say, so how are things going? Well, what are your thoughts? And it's an iterative process. At a certain point, they might say, okay, we're ready to take the first step. Can you help us minimize what the cost of this would look like for us over the long term? So we co-create these solutions with them, just leveraging, picking the experiences and lessons from different organizations around the world. Because a lot of these problems have been solved in other countries. They just haven't been solved yet in Haiti.
And that collaborative effort must just be, one of the keys to the success. You're putting that success in people's hands. I mean, it must give such a sense of pride because you're not just building something, you're teaching people how to maintain these septic pumping stations, how to use good hygiene and how to clean them. So there's somebody around who now knows how to, perform these tasks and whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it is pretty cool because, I wouldn't be able to do it, but because that's not the situation that I live with. But we provide folks with the training they need to be able to carry out these tasks. And, when things are probably, a bit too technically complex, then we have to figure out a solution for that. Is there a private company in the nearest city that would be able to come in, within a day or two to be able to do the repairs that are needed? But we help the village water committee. We help them to establish a reserve fund that they can draw on to pay someone to come and repair these things if they can't do it themselves. Things are a bit more complicated in urban areas, though, because these systems are more complex. You have a network of pipes, you have storage tanks, you might have a generator, which is powering things, and pipes leak, they break down, and you might have to dig up concrete and fix them. So these kinds of systems are typically run by like a small private operator, a little like a mini utility, right?
Yeah.
Local entrepreneurs. So we'll be training the entrepreneurs. So in this case, we're training the business people how to run the water system and the sanitation system, and to make sure that the folks who are connected, the users, are getting a good quality service, and so that they still want to pay their bills.
I could see how, Rotary's involvement might be good because you are helping people create businesses and they probably need much more than just the technical experience. Like, how do you run this like new little business? I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, like a billing system or, customer service. It might not be like a 1-800 number, but if someone's coming in, in a little town, the office of the operator of the water system might be right next door to all their clients. So people just walk next door and knock, hey, what's going on with my water system today? And just knowing how to deal with those kinds of challenges. I mean, it's really quite fascinating. I love it. I have so much fun with this work. You're helping people, but you're also solving some of the biggest challenges in the world. And at the same time, you're doing it really with the participation of the local people and the local leaders. And that's what feels the best of all.
Yeah, it really is inspiring. It must be very heartwarming to knowing you're making a difference. Are there any other sanitation challenges HANWASH would like to address in the future?
I mean, the list of challenges is endless, really, to be honest. One thing that we've been thinking about doing is in the really large cities, like in the capital city, there's a wastewater treatment plant that has been constructed, and I believe it's had some issues with staying functional. And that can be because there's a lack of qualified people to run the system 24 hours a day. It could also be as a result of the fuel shortage, which is currently happening in Haiti. So we could look at maybe solarizing the system, replacing a diesel generator with solar power, solar panels. It might be a lack of access to finance. So, budgetary problems mean that they might not be able to repair the system as quickly as they need to keep it running.
Yeah.
So things like this, sometimes it's really about management capacity. Oh, I would love to see us intervene in that area, because that could really make a difference for a large city like Port-au-Prince could really make a difference, not just in treating the waste that people are generating, but also in when you're treating it, before it goes out to sea or goes into the rivers, you're releasing something that's a little bit less polluting than it was before. And from an environmental health perspective, that's enormously important. Here in Canada, we have these like long pipes that release human waste into the river next to the city, but it's all treated before that happens.
Right. Yeah.
So they treat it to a certain standard. So that standard is probably not as rigorous in a country like Haiti. So how can we help the authorities to raise the standard of that treatment?
Yeah, and it must be difficult with some of these countries and whatever that have so much going on that they might not have the same priorities.
Oh my God, yeah, like I mean, yeah, Haiti is a country faced with enormous challenges. Aside from all of the political instability that they're facing, they also are very vulnerable to natural disasters. It's something I don't need to worry about here at my home in Montreal. They've got hurricanes, they've got earthquakes, they've got, drought, flooding, and those can deal severe shocks to a system. Even if they had the perfect system, how would it respond when faced with these natural disasters, which are difficult to predict and which can vary in severity? I try to have a degree of, empathy or compassion for what, for that situation, because there's a lot to deal with, and that takes a lot of bandwidth. You really need the smartest minds in the room. And if you look at the world today, the smartest minds in the room haven't been able to solve climate change, have they?
I know.
And we're asking Haiti to solve all these problems. So we all need to help each other, right? We need to work in solidarity with each other.
I noticed that this year's theme for World Toilet Day is groundwater and sanitation, but also the title is making the invisible visible. Did I get
making the invisible visible?
Visible. And it's I know that it's probably talking, and I'll ask you about groundwater and sanitation, but when I was, just looking forward to speaking with you, it seemed to mean more to me because it's the people. I'm not aware of this situation. It's like the people in the crisis, we're kind of invisible until my conversation with you is making it more visible. But the theme is groundwater and sanitation, and I think how it plays into that's invisible as well. But if you could maybe speak to how important it is to emphasize the theme of groundwater and sanitation.
Yeah. So look, I'm not a groundwater specialist, but basically there, the water cycle. How would I describe this? I'm not an expert in this field, right? But water goes through a cycle. We've got enormous stores of water in lakes, in rivers, in the oceans, especially in the glaciers, up in mountains, in the ice caps, and in the rain. And so the water goes through the cycle. It hits the ground, or gets absorbed into the ground, or it evaporates. And when it percolates into the ground, it usually percolates into aquifers. So we have these enormous stores of water. Think of them like as water, like you might find a store of gold or oil under the ground. We've got these huge repositories of water under the ground, but they're not evenly distributed. So some countries like Canada have massive amounts of water under the ground that we can dip into and use. But other countries have very limited stores of water. Haiti is a little bit a mix of a both. We looked at a map of the country, and there's some parts of the country that have a great deal of water underground, and other parts of the country that are quite dry. Um, so the issue, though, is that we're drawing on this water for drinking water. We're drawing on it for agriculture, for industrial use, etc. But when we're looking at it from a drinking water perspective, and in really rural areas, if you're basically drilling a well in the ground straight down, it's in the middle of the village, and you're going maybe 100 feet down, 150 feet down, but then you've got those same people in the village now, they have no toilets, and they might be, for example, defecating in the fields or the countryside just around those houses. That can trickle down that can go into the rivers. When it rains, the surface runoff goes into the rivers and it pollutes the rivers. And then those rivers, they sort of, they feed the groundwater supply. So there's a natural, the ground provides a natural filtration mechanism, but sometimes if the problem is too great, and it may not be filtered enough before it reaches our mouths. And so that's the importance, that's the link between sanitation and water, or one of the links. We really need to create these systems to manage human waste so that they don't contaminate the environment where our kids are playing, that they don't contaminate the water that we're drinking, they don't contaminate the water that we're using to irrigate our fields, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's really, I heard like the majority of the water we drink, or that's available for clean water, is due to groundwater. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we well, except it's funny because I was just thinking about this last week. Montreal takes most of its water from the river.
Okay.
And then, filters it, makes it safe enough to drink, and then we use it, and it goes right back into the river, gets filtered again. So it's just a cycle. But that's not, I don't believe that's the norm for most urban places around the world.
I think you're right, yeah. And so having access to safely managed sanitation service in combination with the safely managed drinking services and good hygiene, is the foundation for public health and basically essential for the realization of all other rights. And this seems to be an issue of, more than just water, but of social justice, human rights, environmental justice. When you hear that, again, 3.6 billion people are living without access to safely managed sanitation, the issue seems so daunting. It's another reason why I'm thrilled to have you here to have this conversation and really raise awareness. Hopefully we can, through our conversation, help. But what could someone do who is listening to help if the average person just doesn't want to be overwhelmed, and what could I do?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we engage people like individuals all the time. We usually do that in one of three ways. Folks either, they're like, okay, I want to help the problem. I want to donate a little bit. I want to find a good organization. So we can help with that. We can help you identify a good organization, or you can also contribute to HANWASH. But there's lots of good organizations in Haiti. There's Haiti Outreach, there's Soil, there's Hope for Haiti. Those are three of our partners working on the sanitation issue in Haiti, which folks could contribute to. HANWASH, you can reach us at hanwash.org. So really contributing financially is one way of addressing it. $20 or $100, it makes a difference. The second thing is volunteering your time. Thinking about an organization like a good nonprofit that appeals to you. You could, for example, donate your time if you're really good at accounting or project management, or like you're an engineer and you want to help review blueprints for a water system or a sanitation system. You could do that. And the third way is just to become a loud voice. That means telling your neighbors, telling your family, your friends, hey, check out this organization, check out what they're doing, or hey, did you know that this is a big issue? There's, in the cities in Canada and North America, we're such a cosmopolitan, or we've become such a cosmopolitan and diverse society that many of the folks around us come from countries where these issues are still real for their family and friends back home. So, we can help by just raising our voices, talking to, for example, lawmakers or politicians to help raise the profile, volunteering, or just contributing from your pocketbook.
Well, thank you, Ryan. We could talk on this for so much longer because I have so many questions. I hope we could do this again. But Ryan Rowe, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and we hope to see you next time.
Hey, thanks a lot, Karen. And if I might, I'd just like to thank my team for supporting me in this podcast. So that's Sue Goldson, Ermita Mingo, Alex Ritchie. They've done such enormous help in putting all these notes together. And of course, I want to thank the team at ImpactWayv for inviting us here today, and our partners Haiti Outreach and Hope for Haiti as well. So thank you again for helping to raise the profile on this important issue.
Thank you. There's so many little micro issues on this. Would love to have a chance to talk to you again, Ryan, but I do appreciate you and the entire team at HANWASH. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.